All right, before I get started, I want to thank everybody for coming out here. I know this last project, everybody in my class has been through all this, and it's kind of boring at this point, especially having to talk to other people in the presentation. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for coming and watching. Hopefully I don't go over time. We'll be out here. My project, my company is New Horizons. I'm Kade Johnson. But to start is a little bit about me. I've been in the district since I was a little kid. I went to Rolling Hills, went to Falcon, like most of the other kids that are in here. I've taken business and engineering classes. I started out thinking I wanted to go into business. I took intro to business and entrepreneurship. But I found out that that's not as interesting as I thought it was going to be. So I moved into the engineering classes. I took tech drawing, I took engineering design, now I'm in this. In engineering design, I earned my CSWP, which was what allowed me to convince colleagues to let me take senior projects because I didn't want to take advanced engineering. Another little thing, in the fall I will be attending Colorado School of Mines. I'm going to be a petroleum engineer and I'm going to play football coordinators. All right, let's jump into my project. Essentially, I just wanted to work through the problems that would arise of a proposed colony on Titan. Titan is the largest moon of Saturn for this group. I didn't know until I looked at this project. I chose to focus on several small things: oxygen, nitrogen, to breathe and breathe, and methane, because Titan is special. It is one of the only other celestial bodies in our solar system that has a stable liquids on it. And on Titan, methane goes through like the water cycle on Earth. So there are oceans and oceans of methane, which is great for petroleum engineering and fueling whatever you want to fuel. So with that, I also ended up finding a way to power the base, and I wanted to create a SolidWorks simulation. So I was already interested in doing something a little unorthodox. I like learning about random stuff, so I picked something kind of random. One of my advisors I had talked to before about space-related projects because I think space is super interesting. It's just a weird thing to try to sit down and think about. And he recommended that I move towards something like Titan because I told him that I wanted to be a petroleum engineer and I wanted to include oil and natural gas in my project in some way. So my original objectives, as Coach Combs pointed out before I started, Colorado School of Mines just opened up a space mining graduate program. I wanted to learn more about it, however, my advisor that was a professor there recommended that I don't worry about it right now because it's only available to graduates, so I don't have to worry about it for 4 years. I wanted to learn a little bit more about chemistry. I was able to refresh some of what I learned freshman year. I didn't learn a whole lot of new stuff, but a little bit. It's easy stuff, so I'll explain it later. I wanted to learn more about the industry itself, which I did through my job shadow with my third advisor. He works for a company called Enterplus, and it was very nice to be able to get into the office with him. I always thought petroleum engineering, you'd have to be out on rigs or working on the pumps, but in reality, he was sitting in an office, and he said, well, if I wanted to turn off all of them, I can press this button and every single pump we have to turn off. And it was super interesting, but it was also interesting that since he was an intern, they didn't give him all of the rights of an actual employee, but they still let him work on big projects and stuff. He is actually working on it right now. He's presenting it. That's why he was able to do it. With that, I became a much better researcher. Well, for those of you that saw my table, you saw how big my binder was and all the things that I learned this year. It's great that I was able to pull together a huge project like this that I had never really done before. I'd never done anything with over 6 or 7 sources, and I had 51 on this project. Also, I wanted to get him in with the professors. I said one of my advisors was a professor, however, he only teaches the graduate students, so I gained knowledge about the professors, but it wasn't knowledge that was useful, so we'll see how that goes when I get there in the fall. So this is my logo. I don't really like it very much. And my company is New Horizons. First of all, my name, New Horizons, to emphasize the fact that we've been pushing the boundaries of technology. We've been doing new things and creative things. But we'll also be mining on new celestial bodies and moons and planets, which are literally new horizons. And I wanted to emphasize that with my logo, as clearly the purple kind of thing is not Earth. It's definitely a new horizon. I chose orange and purple colors. The orange colors, I wanted to make everything feel warm and inviting. I know oil companies are not always viewed in the best light in today's climate, so I wanted to make mine seem friendly and inviting. But I also wanted people to take it seriously and understand that this is a powerful company, so I chose purple, which can convey like regality and royalty, very fancy. I already spoke a little bit about my advisors, Christopher Dreyer, Brooks Adams, and Tyler Smith. I also want to thank Jack Rogers. He sat right next to me. Every time I was looking up information and I wanted to make sure I was simplifying it well, I would say, hey Jack, does this make sense? Because I knew he didn't know anything about my project, but he is smart enough to say, yeah, that's simplified enough, or yeah, we need to simplify that more. So thank you. Professor Dreyer is one of the heads of the space mining graduate program. There's 4. And I emailed all of them, and he's the one that they said I should work with because he is the most open in his schedule. He works a lot with lasers. His PhD is in mechanical engineering. He helped me a lot at the very beginning of my project by giving me some of his students' papers that were very similar to mine and helped my research kind of get a jump start, kind of really get a good base to work from. Brooks Adams is the one that came to me with this idea. Well, I came to him with my idea about space, and he came to me with Titan. He is a great researcher. He really helped me out a lot when I had specific questions that I didn't really know how to look up. He would come to me and say, hey, here's this paper to look at. And I said, oh, thank you. He graduated with a degree in math from CSU. He was originally in aeronautical engineering, so he had worked with projects like this, but he didn't like his career path, so he changed it. This is him right here. He didn't want to give me a picture. He told me I shouldn't even put him in my presentation. But I told him I need advisors, so you're going in. So thank you to him. He couldn't be here today. He's working. This is Tyler. He is my 3rd advisor, the one I did my job shadow with. He is currently a student at Colorado School of Mines, and he is an intern at the company Plus. So he helped me get a very good look into the industry, and he also helped me researching because he told me that at Mines they did a similar project where they had to develop a machine that would land on an asteroid at mine. So while it was not exactly the same as mine, it was similar enough that he was able to give me some advice as I was researching. So to get into the nitty-gritty of my project, the first thing I wanted to talk about, as I said, is oxygen. So this is the way I'm going to call it. Before I get into my short little bit of timeline here, I wanted to address some of the setbacks I had. First of all, I was not quite sure what to even look up to learn about this. It's hard to know what you don't know. So that's where my advisors came in to help a lot. That's where Mr. Adams, Mr. Smith, and Mr. Dreyer all helped me a lot. And they helped me to further my knowledge. You'll see in my timeline coming up, my first part of my project when I was researching oxygen, I ran into dead end after dead end after dead end. And it's stuff that would work, but it was either impractical, inefficient, just would have been a waste of resources to try and use. So that was a huge time suck. So were these papers that I read. All the papers I read were from very, very, very smart people that I will never be as smart as them, and I'll probably never understand the things that they were saying fully. But it helped me to pinpoint all the information that I wanted. The Control F key on the computer was my best friend for finding specific information in papers that were 300 pages long. I also, in the last half of my project, really underestimated SolidWorks, and it made me adjust on the fly in my last project. So the red is what I changed, the black is what I changed it to. Obviously, pretty much my whole timeline is red. It was originally very broad because I didn't know what I didn't know, but now I know what I didn't know. So I had originally planned to start in the beginning of October, but obviously we had presentations, and then the Enceladus is another lunar Saturn. That was a dead end. the haze on Titan, that was a dead end. That deep ice wells, those were a dead end. But then I finally started getting some stuff that worked, and that's the agreement there. So I got cryovolcanoes to work, and I got the ECLSS to work. I'll talk about that in a little bit on these next few slides. After that, I researched a little bit of nitrogen, and then I moved towards powering the base. So, the ECLSS, this is the Environmental Control and Life Support Systems currently in place on the International Space Station. So, it works, and I know it works because they're using it right now. This would be my main method of recycling oxygen. It is very, very, very efficient, upwards of 90% efficiency. So it's pretty much the only source of oxygen that I really need. What it does is it takes in H2O from condensation in a habitat or from non-potable water that they purify. It then splits it using electrolysis into hydrogen and oxygen. What electrolysis is it's just a method of chemical reactions where electricity is used as a catalyst, and that's my little bit of chemistry for this project. Actually, we'll talk about this first. This is the Mars Oxygen In Situ Resources Utilization Experiment, or MOXIE. This is something that's proposed for Mars. It works in the same process. It uses electrolysis, however, it does not break down H2O, it breaks down CO2. This was not on my board because it's simply supplementary, but it's another thing to make sure that everything is safe, and as long as one of these two machines is working, my astronauts will be alive. With that, as I said before, the ECLSS uses water. Eventually water is going to run down, and you can't bring all the water that you need with you because it's heavy. So what I spent a lot of my project for at the beginning was looking for a source of water. I tried several things, and then I stumbled upon this. These are cryovolcanoes. It's a naturally occurring phenomenon that they theorize is present on Titan. It is just like Earth volcanoes, but instead of magma, it's comes out of water and or ice. We're not sure because we don't have these on Earth. But this is water that would be readily available for my astronauts to use. This, of course, my picture, I'm sure you noticed, it says Enceladus cold geyser model. That is the other moon that I researched, and these for sure we know, but Titan has a very hazy upper atmosphere, so we're not able to get close pictures of it. It's just a theory that they're there, but if they are there, they'll work just the same. Then I did a short bit about nitrogen because that's the other big thing that you need to live. The International Space Station tries to keep their pressure around 101 kilopascals. Earth is around 100, and this nitrogen is how they do it. They get enough oxygen for everyone to breathe, and they fill up the rest with nitrogen. Well, I'm going to do this through a process called fractional distillation. So this is a process where you take a compound, cool it, and heat it, cool it, and heat it until it's separated. So we would take the atmosphere of Titan, which is very nitrogen rich. We would cool it until just nitrogen is a liquid. Then we would heat it until just nitrogen is a liquid. That was a gas. And it would eventually separate from the other impurities that we don't want our astronauts bringing in. There are gases like cyanide and carbon monoxide on Titan that if somebody breathed it in, they'd be really bad. So we have to make sure that this is accurate. This is using oil separated into gas, but the process remains the same. I'll pump my fractional distillation using a pump called a vacuum, which makes sense because it's gas. Essentially, it works like a super high-powered blender where it creates suction and pulls the gas in, but it does not pressurize it, which pressurized gas can be very dangerous when you're heating it. So it's a good thing that I found this. Yeah. Moving on, I'm going to talk about how I next went on to power up this. This went on throughout the month of December. Still more red, but I made it work. So I first started off by calculating, don't even try to, I'm just a messy worker. I know what's going on, I don't think anyone else does. This was for calculating oxygen. The circled number there is the amount of oxygen per person I would need, and the blue number right here is the total energy I would need to fund the oxygen equipment. So that is 0.972 kilowatts, which is measured. The other, I also did calculations for nitrogen, but that's even worse, and I don't want to confuse anybody. So I left that one out, but it takes 230 joules or kilojoules for the fractional distillation to work. Thank you to Rice for helping me with my chemistry, which would take about 4 minutes to get powered up because my kilo power reactor using Sterling technology puts out 4 kilowatts of energy, so it's more than enough. This is a nuclear reactor that's proposed for the Mars colonization thing that everyone is working towards. It seems to be the big project when it comes to space, is getting humans on Mars, and this is how they plan to power the ship as it gets there. This was recently tested in October. That's where I got the 4 kilowatts from, so it's pretty new information and it's pretty cutting edge, which I think was the most interesting part about my project. Then I went into methane. In January is when the majority of this took place. I had originally planned for it to take all of December and January, however, it went a lot faster than I thought it would because my advisors helped me a lot. It was great time. So obviously still a lot of red. As I said, I had planned for this to happen in December and January, but I was able to crunch everything in January. I also didn't plan for mid-year presentations, which happened in the 14th and 21st, so that kind of made me adjust my plans a little bit. So I'm going to pump my methane using a centrifugal pump. Also kind of like a blender, but it moves liquids in my gas. What it does is it adds kinetic energy to the liquid that is flowing through it. So it would allow my methane, the kinetic energy, to move into the processing center. We would want that separate of the natural habitat in case something bad happens and things explode. We wouldn't want our astronauts to die. One other, or the first possible use for methane on Titan is microbial fuel cells, or bacterial sludge. This is a fairly new thing. They're hypothesizing and testing it right now, so I've seen papers that say they exist, and I've seen papers that say they don't exist, but assuming they do, this is a type of bacteria that can break down methane without using any oxygen, which is amazing because oxygen is what we're trying to save here for my astronauts. What it does is, if you look on the left, there's the bacteria breaking down the methane, and it has electrons as a byproduct. The sludge on the right takes it, and a byproduct of the sludge using that is electricity. So it is a way of making electricity from methane without burning it, which is the natural or the usual method of using methane as fuel. The main thing that I would use methane for are what are called Raptor engines. These two videos don't work, so don't look at all. So Raptor engines are a new form of engine that SpaceX is developing that pump liquid methane and liquid oxygen into the combustion chamber, turn it into a gas and ignite it. They're very efficient and they make a really cool looking cone at the back. They were last tested 2 weeks ago on the Starhopper ship, which is the one that plan to take rich people up into the atmosphere so that they can sail into space and come back. But it would be very good for my project because of the oceans of liquid methane. Obviously, that's a very readily available resource for me. And since it takes 7 years to get to Saturn, if my habitat knew that there was another ship that was coming in and was going to need fuel, they would have 7 years to build up the oxygen for it. I have another video. We'll see if I can get it to work. This is the only one that the school does not block, so hopefully it's not super loud. This is the one that I was showing at my table because the other ones were blocked. But as you can see the cone and the engine's firing. So this was in 2016. This is their first few tests of it. They've come a lot farther since then, and they'll even go a lot farther. There's just a lot of really short clips of it. the last part of my project was in SolidWorks. I wanted to earn my CSWAS, which, for those of you that may know how SolidWorks works, those of you that are in the engineering program, there's the A, the S, or the A, the P, and the E. This is something totally new and totally separate. So you get your CSWAS, your CSWPS, and there's no expert yet, but if anybody's an expert, it's the expert. So I took all of February and all of March working on my SolidWorks. The first week of April, and then obviously I finished my presentation so I can show it to all of you kind of people today. But when I took the CSWAS, it didn't go so well. I failed it the first time, but I was kind of expecting to because there were no practice tests, so I had no idea what to study for. If you look in the simulations tutorial section of SolidWorks, there's like 60 tutorials, so I had no idea what I needed to learn. It was another one of those. So I failed it the first time. I thought I was ready for the second time. I did some more tutorials, but I wasn't. And I failed it again. I missed it by 13 points, which is 2 questions. The problems that I had with the test was that I knew how to run SolidWorks simulations. I knew how to look at the results, but what I didn't know was the extent of the program. So there were questions asking, could you model this thing? I don't know. If you gave me the thing and said, model this, I would know how to do it. But I would not. I don't know the extent of how well the program works and what the program can do. So I failed that twice. It was a little upsetting. So I decided to model 2 parts. The ECLSS is the most important machine in my habitat. So I thought it was obvious that I would model that one. These took me a very long time because there's a lot of very small extrusions. And if you work with SolidWorks, you know you have to be very specific on everything that you do. So this is my model on the left. Your guys' left, my right. And the model on the right is the picture that I used. There are only 2 pictures of the ECLSS that are easy to find. And the other one is more of a side angle. It's not as useful. And it only has 3 of the rack showing, whereas the picture I used has all 5. So the first rack is the shower, the second one's the bathroom, and the next 3 are what they use. The middle rack is what they use to purify water, and the next 2 are what they use to run that electrolysis, chemical reaction, and recover oxygen. There is also my Raptor model of the engines. I show this picture of Elon Musk because that is how I got the dimensions for it. They don't release this kind of thing when they're new and building it. So instead, I looked at how much of his body that it was covering up, and then I looked at how tall he was. And I used a ratio to find the right width or diameter of my engine. And then I did my best guesstimating based off the picture of the worker next to it. Obviously, I'm not exact, and I can't extract all those crazy tubes that they have going on there. But you guys saw the results of them. It was pretty interesting. I ran a simulation on this. I ran a simple force simulation where you can see stress and displacement. It's on my board if you would like to talk with me after. I can tell you all about it. It's pretty interesting. And SolidWorks has a lot of very cool real-world applications, especially within the simulations section. So that's my project. Super Anybody has any questions? We have a few minutes. If you have any questions about the dead ends or anything like that, I can also talk to them and take a little more of that. But yeah, any questions?
Okay, why'd you choose that Raptor engine again? What's the purpose behind it?
Well, I wanted to have a way for ships that flew to the colony to either be able to fly back to Earth or fly into deeper space. And since liquid methane is so prevalent there, it's a very good fuel source for them.
So you're gonna do space mining?
We'll see in 4 years what I'm doing. Definitely limited job placement, but it's also very, very interesting. It's really cool. You can talk to Coach Schultz about it. He worked on stuff that's in space right now. It's a pretty cool experience. It's hard to work on one thing for your entire career. So, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you.